Can you believe I did my hair for you? Hello, my friends. Welcome back to our YouTube channel. My name's Katie. I play guitar in a band called Big Fat Big. We usually make music, but now we make YouTube videos. Today, I'm going to be talking about what it's like to be a woman in music. The first few things I've got to say, I am a cis woman. I am talking from my own experience. This might not be your experience of the music industry, and that's fine. I think some things will overlap because I'm going to be talking about inclusivity in the music industry, but that could be a whole other video because basically, spoiler alert, there aren't enough people of different genders, races, ages, abilities in the music industry. There isn't enough inclusivity, full stop. But today I am going to be talking about what it's like to be a woman in the music industry. I've got notes because I've got a lot to say and I want to be as concise as I can be, but I already know that that's going to be difficult and I'm probably just going to talk a lot. So if you don't like rambly videos, you're probably not going to like this, but if you could just like stick around because honestly, I want views. What is it like? What has my experience been like as a woman in the music industry? Honestly, weird and hard, but also my favourite thing in the whole entire world. So I'm going to talk about some stats. If you Google women in the music industry statistics, it'll come up. And I recommend that you do that because there's quite a lot of data on this subject. I'm just going to be talking about some specific stats that I think represent my point really well. I'll link the articles that I used down below so you can go and check them out if you want to. I'm going to be reading some stats from a report called The Inclusion in the Recording Studio, and it studies gender and race of the industry's core professions. It looks at the top 700 songs on Billboard's year-end Hot 100 chart between 2012 and 2018. So that's a lot of data. And this study found that women made up 21.7% of artists, 12.3% of songwriters, and 2.1% of producers. Honestly, those stats speak for themselves, but I'm going to rant at you for a while longer about what that means to me. Another study that I was looking at focused on women who do freelance music, and 84% of them said they have been treated differently because of their gender, and 68% said their gender affected their employment. So the first statistic shows that there aren't enough women in music in general, and then the second statistics show that the women who are in music feel that their gender affects what they do and their role in the industry, which is pretty wild. So we're outnumbered in terms of gender, and that can be hard. Sometimes it's hard to walk into a full room of people knowing that you're not going to find many other women in there. And the reason I think that's hard for me is because the bad experiences that I've had as a woman in music are with people who aren't women, not all men. It's exhausting continuously putting yourself back in a situation that has been bad in the past. But if you want to do it, then you might not have a choice. And not everyone that you meet is going to be bad. Like I say, for me, it's the experiences that I've had in music are with people who aren't women. So sometimes it's hard to go into a room knowing that you might not find many other women there. Another point that I wanted to make is that people just say weird things to me, or to us in general as a band. Sometimes people explain my own gear to me at gigs as if I don't know how to use my own gear that I purchased with my own money. As if I don't know how that works. Okay, you explain that to me, that's fine, I'll stand and listen. Stereotypes are a weird one. A one that I feel is quite present is that sometimes people either expect us to be angry, rock, feminist, really political punk music, which if you do that, It's fucking cool. I love it. It's just not me. It's just not us as a band. There's either an expectation to be that or to be like a little girl who plays guitar and sings about boys. Which again, if you do that, that's really cool. I love Taylor Swift, so... But obviously, like, we know that music is far more complex than that. So why do you expect women to fall into either of those categories? Weird. That one is more like, I haven't heard as much of that in real life, but on the internet, angry men exist and get mad if you are complex. Another thing we've experienced is that we've been sent weird messages, inappropriate messages. We got a message last year, we got sent an unsolicited nude. We weren't triggered by that. We found it quite funny because it's just pathetic. It's a vile thing to do, to send an unsolicited nude, but we could kind of, I think especially because there's 3 of us and we've got each other to lean on, it didn't really bother us in any way. It just makes us angry that someone thinks that's okay because it's not, and that other people that receive unsolicited nudes might be triggered by that, and also they might not have people to lean on like we do when shitty things like that happen, and it's just not okay. I know lots of people in bands, loads of my friends are in bands, and none of the male musicians that I know have been sent unsolicited nudes. I know that it happens, obviously, but I can name multiple female bands that have been sent unsolicited nudes that I know of personally, and it's happened to us, and I don't know any male bands that it's happened to. I'm not saying that it doesn't happen, obviously it does, and it's bad, full stop, across, like, you shouldn't send unsolicited nudes to anyone. It's just not okay, and you shouldn't be doing it. But like, would we have received that message if we weren't girls? Another thing, sometimes I feel like women are booked as like the token girl band. For example, there'll be a festival and the lineup will just be, how do I say it? Straight white men in indie bands. That'll be the lineup of like 30 acts or whatever. And then the festival will realise, oh shit, we've not been inclusive in the slightest. Let's book a girl band so that people on Twitter can't tell us off. The band might not fit the festival, might not fit the lineup in the slightest, but they've been chosen because they need to be seen as inclusive. And then they'll be called out on that because that's still not good enough. It's just not, that's just not what you do. And they'll be like, oh no, actually we booked this girl band, so you can't say that we're not inclusive. It's just boring at this point, honestly, boring. Be better. You shouldn't be booking us because of our gender. Being a woman is part of who I am as a musician, and I wouldn't change that in the slightest. I love it, but it is one part of my whole experience of being a musician. I have so much more to offer than the fact that I'm a girl. So much more. We're talented and fucking good at what we do, and that's why you should be hiring women, not because this make you seem more woke. That's just not how it works. Talking about the weird stuff that we deal with as women in music, whether that's online or in real life, I've realised my way to deal with that and my way to like protect my energy is to just stop trying to justify my place in the industry and like our place as a band in the industry. I've stopped trying to justify the fact that women should be in music and there should be more women in music. I don't need to argue with people on Twitter about the fact that Redden and Leeds, the festival lineup, should be more inclusive. I don't need to say that because it's fucking obvious. It should be better. I just think that like there's a difference between talking about these things, like making this kind of video and talking about our experiences and stuff. I think there's a difference between that and how I felt before, where I would look through like all of these comments about like just dumb people, uneducated people, misinformed people, insecure people saying that they're mad because we think the industry should be more inclusive, when I mean the stats speak for themselves. How can you argue with those stats? Just admit that you don't like women. There's a difference between like going through all of those comments and looking at them all and feeling the need to like argue with people online and stuff. There's a difference between that and then doing this kind of video and just talking about how we feel about things and our experiences and what we think should change. There's a difference between that and like torturing myself online. And I've stopped doing that. I'm not going to justify myself to people who don't want to hear it. I just need to talk about the Grammys for a second. So the rock category at the Grammys this year was filled with women, which was really cool, obviously. And so many people on the internet were mad about that. Tell me why. There is no reason why you should be mad about that. I stopped myself from reading too many comments, like I said, because it just enrages me. So I did some Googling and I found a study. My new pad. There is a study, again, I'll link it below, that says between the years of 2013 and 2019 at the Grammys, only 10.4% of nominees were women. Really? 10.4%? And you're mad that a few women got nominated in the rock category? You're mad at that? There is space for all of us and you're just choosing to be shit. You're choosing to not be inclusive. Another interesting stat that comes off the back of that is that 37% of those female nominees were from underrepresented racial and ethnic groups. 37% of those 10.4%. Like, how small is that statistic going to be? Like, it's just not good enough from the Grammys. It's just not good enough. Not being inclusive of different genders, races, it's just inexcusable. And it's boring at this point, frankly. It's fucking boring. Get a grip. That's a small part of our experience as women in the industry. But there are far worse things that I could talk about in this video. Women experience manipulation. They're victims of people who abuse their positions of power. Women's skills and worth are constantly minimized. There's harassment, there's violence against women. There are so many horrific stories from women in the music industry. I just didn't want to I wanted to talk about my experience in this video, and I didn't want to make this like too graphic, but I just want to make it very clear that there are worse things that happen in the industry that need to be talked about. We need to call people out on their bullshit. We need to call people out when they do things that aren't okay. There aren't many women in music, not because they don't want to be, but because of all of this shit that I've talked about and all of the other stuff that I haven't talked about that actively discourages people from being in the industry. I think for a lot of people, it's not even an option. The opportunities for different people from different backgrounds aren't there from a young age for them to like start working on their craft and then believe that it's a viable career option as they become adults. So that needs to be addressed in our educational system. I believe like on our level as smaller musicians, we can call out bullshit when we see it. We can support people of different genders, races, ages, abilities within the local scene. We can all do our bit to make what we do as inclusive as possible, but the music industry is huge and the people at the very top control a lot of what goes on. Major record labels moving huge amounts of money around within the industry, and money can often equal power. My belief is that if you have that much power, you have the power to change things. You have the power over the way things look in the industry. You have the power over how inclusive you choose not to be. Different people need to be hired across the board, from artists to record label managers. It's boring seeing people who all look the same, from the same kind of backgrounds, the same kind of financial backgrounds. Making that type of change, taking steps towards inclusivity, will hopefully help with the issue that we have at the minute of representation. Representation is something that I think really affected my journey as a musician. I went to college when I was 16 to study music, and I had an amazing experience overall, but when I look back, I was just so scared. I just didn't dare use my voice and stand up for myself when I should have done. I thought I had to be like the cool girl, Like, yeah, I'll play keyboard because all of you want to play guitar, even though really I didn't want to play keyboard. I wanted to play guitar and I just didn't dare say anything. I thought there was no room for me. Like, bitch, no. Make room for yourself, because there is room for all of us to be successful. You don't have to be anything but who you are to be successful. You can take up as much space as you want in the industry. You can be as loud as you like or as quiet as you like. You can be whoever you want to be in the industry, and that is absolutely more than enough. And you will find success through being yourself and through doing what you want to do. Don't care about what other people think. It doesn't matter. People on the internet will argue about the fact that they think there are too many women being nominated for Grammys. That doesn't need to affect what you do now. It doesn't need to affect your confidence, because, like, honestly, use it as fire. Use your voice when you need to. It's not being bossy, it's standing up for yourself. Your ability as a musician will speak volumes anyway. Being a girl is entirely powerful. Use all of the shit that you see and hear as fuel to be better. As fuel to work against that shit, as fuel to, like, prove them wrong, and to show that, like, it doesn't matter what people say, that's not going to affect what you do in your life. Because we're all just like tiny little specks flinging around on this massive rock. So why are you going to let people who you don't know affect what you want to do with your life? That's the shit I wish I could say to 16-year-old me, who didn't dare admit that actually it was really intimidating being surrounded by loads of male guitarists and having to fight for your part in a song. That was really intimidating. That feeling of fear shouldn't have stopped me from using my voice and playing my instrument and taking the opportunities that were in front of me. Because who did that serve? Who was that serving? They got to play more guitar parts. Cool. What does that mean now? I missed out on opportunities because I was too scared to say, actually, no, I want to play that part. I'm here to serve myself, you know? Be selfish, stand up for yourself, make noise, make as much noise as you want to. Drown out the people who don't think that you should be in this industry. It's not your gender or your race or age or ability that are working against you. It's the people who make those things an issue that are working against you. Use it all to light a fire under your arse. Play all of the music that you want to play. I didn't realise how much not having any type of representation, I didn't realise how much that would affect how I felt. Using the internet to follow successful women who are doing what they want to do in music has completely changed my perspective on things. To see other people doing what you want to do and being like, oh, she's doing that, so that means I can too. Like, that's so much more powerful than we give it credit for. Just surrounding myself with other people who uplift me and are empowering. Robin and Chaz are, like, obviously perfect examples of that. And I believe that if we try to solve some of the issues that I was talking about before, if we change the way that the industry looks, representation won't be this much of an issue, because there will simply be more women in music. I'm not here to play the victim. I love what we do more than anything in the whole entire world, and people choosing to not be inclusive isn't going to stop us from doing what we want to do. I'm not saying, oh, poor us. I'm saying, poor you for missing out on everything that we've got to offer. Poor you for missing out on that because you think that for whatever reason we shouldn't be here. Poor you. Also, I get, like I said at the start of the video, not everyone is going to feel this way about being a woman in music, or not everyone is going to think that inclusivity is as much as a problem as I personally think it is. Hey, that's fine. You can have your opinions or whatever, but what I would say to that is that your opinions on that and your different beliefs about that don't change the statistics that I talked about at the start of the video. Clearly, they present a problem. Just because your experience doesn't reflect that problem doesn't mean that the problem isn't there. you know? I'd love to talk to you guys about how you feel about this issue and inclusivity in the scene. Thanks for all your support on our videos so far. We're loving all the interaction. There's a lot of work going on behind the scenes for YouTube and Instagram. So subscribe if you want to see more. Follow us on Instagram. All of our socials are linked down below. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope you're doing as well as you possibly can be at the minute. Love you, bye.